Hello everyone. Today we are going to discuss about change management and release management. This is a very broad terms in the world of IT service management, or we can call it ITIL. Now let's begin. So, uh, so I've just changed the client name and I've just mixed and matched with I've worked with multiple clients throughout the world, mostly into GCC countries. So I've just mixed and matched things here, and what I believe will work very nicely in the practical world. So first, I'll just start with the definition. A change, by definition, is any modification to a managed environment, including the addition, removal, or replacement of any component. That is a configuration item, we can say, supporting the infrastructure or a service in that environment. So, what basically we're trying to say is that all the modifications require an authorized change record and must be logged central repository and where it can be tracked and audited. So the purpose of change management is to protect the client from business impact caused by changes. So there's a very big notation here that you cannot act on a change until the change record is fully approved. So these are the basic things. So what the overall picture what I'm trying to portray is that any change in the environment, for example, if you work for a bank and you have an application which needs an update. For a normal person, it is just a request that he wants to change some view or add something to his view in the application. However, in the background, it goes as a change request, and when a change is processed, it has to be recorded, checked with all the stakeholders. If there is any risk that is identified, has to be mitigated, rectified, then only it has to be implemented. So now the types of changes that I've described. So in a broader term, the normal change is a temporary or permanent change to a service or infrastructure within a managed environment. So it could be just a normal change like network new switch and upgrade of bandwidth and a standard routine change. These are the usually low risk change and usually the organization provides a blanket approval, so it does not have to go through the whole cycle of change management, which I will describe you in later part. But it just goes through basic checks and how it is being documented. And then emergency change. Emergency change is something that it is required to be implemented as soon as possible, and usually it is like break fix. For example, if we have a huge incident which require immediate things to be changes to be implemented to resolve that incident, that time ideally this emergency change is being used and implemented. Urgent is something that is a business requirement. A business wants to be implemented as soon as possible. So any changes which is kind of poor planning and preparation is not valid for the normal, not valid for urgent change, or else an emergency change. So just keep it in mind. So the change has to be very well planned. We cannot just abruptly go in and implement a change. So now, for a change, ideally we cannot put a timeline for completion. A change could be a normal change or standard change or emergency change. We cannot put up a time because we don't know how big the change is, how much effort is required, how many people are required. However, what we can define ideally is that how much time we allowed to take to implement a change from the day it is being requested. So not implemented. I gotta say, how much time will our technical team will start working on the change. So, for example, ideally, if a normal change, it should be from the day, for example, if on Monday I have scheduled a change request, ideally by next Monday, the team should start working on that change. Same way, routine is like does not has to go through the whole process of approval. So it just take 1 day. An emergency change is a change which is a break fix which has to start which has to start implementation as soon as possible. An urgent gain no lead time as soon as possible. The keyword is the lead time. So just keep in mind a change usually SLAs of the change are usually defined on lead time about how much time their team is going to take to start working on that change, not completion of the change. Now, just this is one of the examples from my client. This is how the whole cycle will work. So here it is the incident management, service request, or a change triggers. So, example, if technical teams wants a change to be implemented, so incident management gives input, service request gives an input, and a normal change request gives an input to initiate a change a request. A change management process starts. So here, the change requester raises a change is being initiated, and second point is the assessment and initial authorization. So assessment and initial authorization is required by the technical team. So change supervisor, usually the change supervisor is someone who is kind of for example, if this is a network change, so usually then the head of the department or the leads of the department are the people who will do the final assessment if this change is required or what needs to be done. Then, once the initial assessment is identified and approved by change supervisor, this planning needs to be required. How much time it will take, how many resources are going to take, when we can start working on it, what are the impacts of this. So, considering all these things, we have to plan that change. In that, it requires change coordinator, implementer, supervisor. So, they are the people who come together and plan things. Then, again, these people build the change request, the build the change requirement, and implement. Those like the build plan, they build a test plan, or they test also internally how it works. Then the change when is built, is planned, is tested, that is a success that it can be implemented. It goes to a cab approval. So we're all the stakeholders like network, security, managers, stakeholders, implementers, everyone come together and the brainstorm the change request. So this cab meeting is chaired by change manager. The change manager is not the person who can approve the change. However, a change manager's most important role is in this meeting is that getting all the stakeholders and ensure that everyone is aware what is being implemented, they know the risks, they approve the risks, they mitigate whatever works out to ensure that everyone knows about it and and everyone approves this change to be implemented. Now the next part is the implementation of change. So the implementation of change is once it's approved, the change implements with the supervisor. They work together to implement a change. Once the change is implemented, again it goes to a monitoring stage where after implement they keep it in a monitoring for a defined time period to see if the changes is working properly in the production environment. And after that review monitor stage is finished, it goes to review and closure of the change. So this is the whole process of change management. So here if you see in the assessment and initial authorization, usually in organizations will have a different major change process. So major changes are changes which are like this is a huge effort required, wherein a lot of people are involved, a lot of departments. So, for example, if there is a worldwide change on uh, the business model which is changing and which is implementing a change request, so this is the whole environment is changing and a lot of people are required, maybe new people are required. So that requires a long-term planning. It takes very long time to get implemented. There might be multiple cabs required. It might be broken down into pieces and then again come back to normal change process. So that is being a different process which we can describe this later in detail. And so now what happens when we implement the change? Or so once we implement the change, there is an input which goes to a configuration management team, or configuration management to update the configuration of the system. Now, when we are implementing a change, this is the stage where the release management starts, and the release management finishes after the implementation of the change. So, release management's job is manager is to ensure that whatever is implemented in the cab is being released to the production environment properly. And also if in the implementation monitor of stage, if we identify a failed change that has to be reported uh, as an incident. And again, if there is a major impact on the system, again, which will again give an input to the incident management system that how this is an incident. Then it will so this is the overall process for change. Now this is a detailed description of how a normal change will work. You can pause the screen and have a look into it. So this is a normal flow, which is we discussed earlier. It is just in detail. And then this is the next phase. This is how the process flow for the routine change. It is just initial stage. It is planned, build and test and implemented. There's no cab required here, and it is just closed. It's a pre-approved change. Emergency change is incident management, which gives an input. See here, since and request for break fix, it is implemented. There's an ECAB wherein immediate approvals are being taken and implemented. The change request is documented, retrospective change. So later it can be implemented and discussed whatever was implemented or done in a cab. Then, so I just described in detail the release management. This is a definition. You can pause screen and read that. It is usually supporting process whatever is approved in a change. When the change is implemented, the implementation stage is actually taken care by the release management. Um, so now there are major releases, minor releases, emergency releases, depending on the change requests which is being in the system. This is an overall process of release management. So this is the development environment first, then it goes to controlled environment, then it goes to production environment. So the development, test, and production stages, like when the request comes in, request is being logged, review and assign the release team. So this everything should be captured in a usually ticketing tool. Mostly I have worked on the tool like Remedy and HP Service Manager or Peregrine Tickets, or there's one more tool, ServiceNow, I believe. So these are the steps which are already there. So the moment the changes in vision process, it also triggers these details in the tool. The release manager takes it out. They'll see that every step is followed, which is being confirmed in the approved in the cab. And also the most important part is that there should be a the configuration management database should be updated. Whatever is updated in the development, test, or production